How mentally prepared will Florida State be against SMU?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk Seminoles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Focus. It is the prime thing that every team must do before a game. Home or away, big-time opponent, lower-level opponent, anywhere in between. And it's still the thing that drives coaches like Nick Saban crazy, Mike Norvell crazy, and everybody else. Emotion plays in it. You have 18 to 22-year-olds, for the most part, making your roster up. It's not easy. Florida State obviously has struggled with that this year. Evidence. How about the Georgia Tech game and the Boston College game? Neither one of them did Florida State have much emotion, much leadership, quite honest, much fire in the belly. Things started to change with the Memphis game. It was competitive, and Florida State made a late charge. Cal game, Florida State could have easily lost, but at the same time, they bowed up, especially the defense, and made it happen, and they gutted out a 14-9 win. So now that they've had some success and they've gotten back on track, are they going to utilize that success, or would they let it slip through their fingers? This is something that many college football teams have done this year. The examples are insane. Probably the worst and the easiest to notify is Notre Dame wins at Texas A&M next week, loses at home to Northern Illinois. Horrendous. There are numerous situations like this, and I'll talk about the Virginia Tech-Miami game that was played last night as another example in a few minutes. But overall, SMU is a quality football team, but the name on the jersey, the team that they are coming up from the quote-unquote non-Power 5, that can lead to even 2 or 3 players for Florida State not taking them as serious as they should, and it costing the Noles the football game. Focus, focus, focus. It's boring to talk about, but it decides games every single week when the gap in talent is quite big. Now, this is not a normal SMU team. Brett Lashley and his staff done a nice job using the portal, developing some guys that, quite honestly, the schools like Texas, Oklahoma State, LSU, most of the teams that recruit the Dallas Metroplex passed on. They've done a nice job, but it's still SMU. Will the Florida State Seminoles as a whole be mentally prepared to play this game? That is my concern with Florida State for the rest of the season, every game. I don't really talk about it enough, and I probably should have. But now that they've had a little success, you're going to find out, okay, we're playing better now. We're good. That's an easy trap to fall into. It should be just the opposite. It should be more like, okay, this is how it's done. Now let's take it to another level and not just beat the team in front of us. Let's stomp them. Florida State has the talent to do that, even with, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that comment about this on my podcast, on the YouTube channel. Yeah, but DJ's the quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Florida State should be able to run the ball for 140, 150 yards, hit just a few play action passes, and have a few screens pop and score mid-20s to low 30s. But they've shot themselves in the foot. Guys not making other players miss, poor blocking, and then DJ just missing wide open receivers. That's just all mental. It's, again, part of focus, focus, focus. Florida State's offense is absolutely the opposite of that. But even with defense and a tremendous group of special teams players, we don't give enough credit to Fitz and to Mastromano. They're tremendous football players. They're going to get paid at the next level. They also factor into this. I can tell you, based on watching them, and I'm sure most of you will agree, those two young men with all the other players on special teams, they're focused. They're doing a good job. But now it has to transcend for the whole team. The defense started coming around. You hold somebody to 9 points, you're obviously doing your job. And Cal had a quarterback that's going to be able to play in this thing they call the National Football League, and they still did their job. Memphis quarterback had a few really nice plays, but they really thwarted him in the second half. They held him to 20. That's another quarterback that's going to play in the NFL. Those kinds of things are really good omens for Florida State's defense. Again, offense got a long way to go. I get it. But you should be in the game mentally now. Everything else is there. You've got to win. You've proven that your defense is good. Your special teams are good. It's just the offense that's got to be consistent. So the focus is there. And I want to bring up something else. It just shows you how mentality can help change a team. Think back to the Georgia Tech ball game. Ugly game on both sides of the ball for both teams, really. Neither team was great that day, but Georgia Tech was more physical. Part of the reason they were is their interior O-line, specifically their interior, the two guards in the center, beat up on Joshua Farmer. He did not have a good game, and I'm being extremely kind. He was awful, to be honest. For whatever reason, I don't know what's going on in his life. I don't know the kid. I've never met him, but I do know this. He was not a good football player that day. It's ironic. He wasn't great against BC either, but then the last 2 weeks, I was going through his stats and everything to see if it matched what my eyes had told me. He had 2.5 tackles for loss against Memphis. He had 3.5 against Cal. Those are as elite as it gets. Now, how do you go from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs in a few weeks? The only legitimate answer that I can get is that he was injured. And like I always say, there's 3 things coaches do at press conferences. They lie, and they lie. They don't want people to know, but when it comes to injury, they're terrible at it. And I'm guessing they went around it if he was hurt. I don't know if he was. If that's the case, so be it. But other than that, it's just got to be mental, because it's not like Joshua is a totally different player in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to believe Odell Hagen's forgot how to coach. He's been coaching forever. He was a tremendous player at Florida State, ironically, too. So he knows the whole culture at Florida State University. And it just shows you how much focus plays into these games, because now that Joshua's locked in, you got Big Darrell next to him, got Daniel Lyons, who's been, ironically, their most consistent defensive lineman. He's a young player out of Miami, but he's pretty good. They might have something working at the D tackle spot. But Farmer has obviously stepped up his play and is now locked in. And it changes your whole mentality when you go see one unit, even if you don't play on this unit, you go watch some of the guys on your team go out and just beat the bejesus out of the guy in front of them. If that's not inspiring as a football player, what are you doing on the gridiron? So Florida State today, I know that they're quote unquote the underdog against SMU. I almost picked them to win. I ended up going with SMU to get the W in a close game by 4 points, 24-20. But I don't think this is a game where Florida State's going to be out of it. And it could just be one play that changes it. For this podcast, I have Joshua Farmer, for those that watch the YouTube version of this, as my thumbnail, as the photograph. And talking about, I got him on the screen as part of my snippets on the sidebar here. It's for a reason. Like, he's taken the mentality up. You got to give him credit. He's earned that. Respect is given to you when it is earned, and he has reached that level. Who's going to follow Joshua Farmer? Something to think about. When we come back, we're going to talk about that from the opposite side of the ball, when Florida State has the football against the SMU Mustangs. And then as a wrap-up, how crazy the Miami-Virginia Tech game is, and it should be an inspiration to Florida State as it relates to, once again, focus. Have you used Gametime yet? If not, you should download the Gametime app. Today's game for Florida State at SMU is a great example. It's a really cool venue at SMU's. 32,000 people are allowed into that stadium to pack it. Not the biggest place, but it's quaint. It's a neat stadium, and you can get tickets on Gametime if you want. There's an opportunity for you to do other things too. If you want to go to a concert, if you want to go to a play, if you're into some kind of a musical, whatever it may be, Gametime has an opportunity for you and your family. You could use it for gifts. You could use it to take somebody like a loved one to an opportunity like a Metallica concert, which I would love to go to again in my life. Maybe the best concert I ever went to was a Metallica concert. So make sure you check out Gametime. All you have to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime by downloading the app, creating an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Motivation, being focused, being ready to play. Florida State's offense has been the opposite of all those things. If not now, when? Are they going to be focused? And I mean, from DJ all the way to the reserve tight ends that come in rotating in the game when they go 12 and 13 package in short yardage, will they be focused and not leave yards and points on the field? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't think the ceiling for the offense is very high. I doubt many of you do either. That being the case, Florida State at minimum is leaving a couple of touchdowns on the field every game because of shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. Stupid blocking decisions. And that's not just O-line. That's tight ends and receivers too. The wide receiver screen blocking for Florida State is a joke. It is horrific. That is focus. That is want to. That is will. That has nothing to do with coaching. I know a lot of people are mad at the coaches at Florida State, and I have some questions too. There's a few guys I think should be fired. I'll talk about that after the season. But the players play. And you can see the effort. It's on film. You can't hide it. Today we're going to find out, because they got a win last week, that the defense all but, they made it happen. 14 points, you shouldn't win a game, but Florida State gets the dub against Cal. SMU, that's not going to work. Farmer, who I just talked about, Jackson, and the Conrad Hussey, the whole group of defensive players, Shaheem Brown is probably the defensive MVP for the Noles. All those guys, they can do their job, but they're probably going to give up over 20 to an explosive SMU offense. No disrespect for that. They're good. They have a few NFL players at their skill spots, and it's at home. Will the offense be focused to help Florida State be a more successful football team as a whole? Not put the defense back out on the field over and over after 3 and outs or four play drives. Focus, focus, focus. I'm tired of the excuses. And to be honest, I'm going to call it out now. Mike Norvell going in circles around the commentary about the offense. We're practicing hard. I like the energy. I don't care about that. Results, results, results. No more coach speak. I didn't even hardly pay much attention to Mike's press conference this week. I'm done with his press conferences until he's honest and direct about how bad the offense is, because he's the one sending DJ out there with this. And I'll get into that after the game. We're going to do a live show tonight after the game, by the way. It'll be somewhere around 11:30. I'll set that in a little bit. But this is an offense that if they don't score in the 20s against SMU, they're not the 85 Bears here, okay? They're a solid defense, nothing more. They don't have a ton of guys that are great. The free safety is a guy I'd watch out for. He's got 3 picks already. That speaks for itself. Got a big nose guard, a couple inside linebackers that are good. The other safety solid. But do they have an elite shutdown corner? Do they have an elite, no doubt about it, first or second round pick on the edge? No, they do not. Now, those players probably think they are. All players think they're better than they are for the most part. But Florida State has guys to match speed with anybody at receiver, and they're not getting it done. Florida State has the size on the O-line to run over everybody, but they're not getting it done. It's about focus. And that leads to my last point. Last night's Miami-Virginia Tech game, I had gone on Dono's show on Locked On Canes just to talk about that game. I said, I think Miami will blow them out. Virginia Tech was the team that had been focused all year. They were really disappointing to me because I thought they were going to be pretty good. They hadn't been. They were 2-2 going into the ball game. They came out focused and kicked Miami in the teeth. They ran right down their throat. If you haven't seen it, there was a play, I think it was early second quarter, late first quarter. They just ran a dive. Running back's a good player. He'll probably have at least a cup of coffee in the NFL. He's a good player. But the middle linebacker for Miami, who's an All-American candidate, Francisco Mauigoa, dead to rights, one-on-one, gets his head too low, doesn't wrap up. Guy bounces off him, scores touchdown. Lack of focus. That Miami team is rolling, but they came into that game like they didn't have to do anything. Just show up. This is why, again, as I mentioned earlier in the show, guys like Kirby Smart, Mike Norvell, etc., go nuts about technique and just doing your job. If Maui Noah makes that tackle, that game's totally different. But once he scored on that long one, like the stadium just went, the energy just went out. It's like, wow, we're not really here. Well, that can work in reverse when Florida State plays at SMU. Florida State needs to be the team that mentally is into the game and they don't hear the noise. Like the SMU fans will be nuts. They don't get much attention. This is their first ACC ball game in the league. It's going to be a big deal to them. But do they have as much talent as Florida State? No, they do not. If Florida State kicks them in the teeth, again, I say it every week, and it's the first thing on my sheet again today that I already have made up for tonight's game to track it. First down runs. Minimum 4 yards per carry in every single quarter of the game. Physical, downhill, here we come, try to stop us. If you can't run the ball on SMU, and they got pretty good inside linebackers, but, this is an experienced line with over 200 starts, blah, blah, blah. If you're not focused, it'll show, and you'll be in 2nd down and 7, 2nd down and 8, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. Do you want those with DJ? Really? Focus. If Florida State is focused and they're more physical, that'll carry over to the defense, which is playing good anyway, and you have a chance to win the game. If not, you will end up being on the wrong end of this game and being 1-4 with Clemson coming up. Good luck with that. Focus, focus, focus. That's what's going to be needed for Florida State to win today. I haven't seen it yet. You got to prove it to me. I'm a glass half empty guy. I don't denote it any other way. But there's no reason they shouldn't win. Really just looking at it, taking the other games out, just comparing the teams. Florida State's a better football team in terms of talent. Now, the coaching's got to work, and the players got to mesh and all that. I get all that. Focus will take care of that. And I think to date this season, out of the teams in the top 20 preseason, Florida State is dead last in focus. Why, I have no idea. That's something Norvell makes about $10 million a year to fail at right now. So that needs to be discussed again here pretty soon. If they lose and they don't look focused, that'll be me going off on it, because I'm starting to not feel so good about Norvell, especially with this press conference this week. But we'll see. We'll find out if Florida State is locked in or not. Tonight, once again, we're going to have a live show after the game, and we're going to find out if Florida State is a team that can make any noise at all and possibly make a bowl game, or is this team just going to go in the tank? This is the make or break game. Florida State versus SMU. It's first true road game, but it's not a dominant opponent. It's a talented one, but not a dominant one. Florida State should win. I don't care what the point spread is. I don't care what anything else is said about them. This is one they should win. But even myself picked them to lose because I don't trust them. It's about here, not the brawn, not the speed, not the size. So that's where focus is going to come in or not. And the Noles will find out if they can win. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first podcast of the day. And I truly appreciate you stopping in and talking some Noles football with me. We're going to find out today what's going to happen with Florida State. This ought to be interesting. I will see you after the game.